Alright, division, scary to a lot of people, but it doesn't need to be, especially if you practice. So, divide 64 by 8. There's two ways to write this. You can write 64 divided by 8, or you can write how many times does 8 go into 64. What really helps you in division is knowing your multiplication facts, because if you know your times table, multiplication is just the opposite of division. So I know that if I count by 8s, that 8 will go into 64 8 times. And I can check my work by saying 8 times 8 equals 64. If you're doing it with the long division sign, the number on the outside, you're going to ask yourself, how many times can it go into 6? Well, it can't go into 6, so that's a 0. And then how many times does 8 go into 64? Again, we can skip count by 8s, and it will go into it 8 times. And the really thorough way of doing it is to make sure that we then multiply the 8 times this 8 to get 64. We subtract, and we see that there is a remainder of 0. There's nothing left. So again, the answer is 8. 64 divided by 8 is 8. Let's try a different one. Find the quotient of 30 and 4. Quotient is the word for the answer to a division problem. So you can write it as 30 divided by 4. But usually I find that when I'm doing a more difficult division problem, I'm going to use the long division way of writing it. So I'm going to say, how many times can 4 go into 30? So I first look at the 3, and 4 can't go into 3, so I have to put a 0 above it. Now I say, how many times does 4 go into 30? Well, I can skip count. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. That's 7 times. And if I go to 8, that's 32. That's too much. So I can only go 7 times. And that 7 times 4 was 28. Now we have to subtract to see what's left over. And we can see that there's 2 left over, and there's no other numbers to divide. So our answer is 7 remainder 2. Now if you look at this long division problem, there were 4 steps that we use. First we divided. We said, how many times does 4 go into 30? Well, it went into it 7 times. Then I had to multiply the 4 times the 7 to get the 28. Then I subtracted to find out if there was any remainder. And then if there were more numbers, I would have to bring down. And some people remember that by saying daddy for division, mother for multiplication, subtraction is sister, and bring down is brother. Let's try a hard. Find the quotient of 415 and 5. So how many times does 5 go into 415? That's division. So this one's a lot harder, so we need to use our long division. We say, how many times can 5 go into 415? Don't be afraid. Remember that your steps are first to divide, multiply, and then subtract, and bring down, and then maybe you have to do it more than once. So we go back up to the top. So we start by saying, can 5 go into 4? Well, 4 is smaller than 5, so that 5 won't fit. so we put a 0 above it. We multiply. 5 times that 0 is 0. Now we subtract to find if there's anything left over, and yes, there definitely is. 4 minus 0 is 4. Bring down the next number, so that's becoming a 41. Now we want to say, how many times does this 5 go into the 41? That's where we're working next. So, divide, we're in this division step up here. 5, skip count it until you get to as close as you can get to 41 without going over. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, which was 8 times. And that 8 times 5 is 40. That was the next step. Now subtract so we can see if there's anything left over. And yes, there's 1 left over. You can see we still got this 5 we have to deal with, so bring that down. That's going to be 15. Now we need to go back up to the top because we just did bring down, so now we're in division. So now we say, how many times does 5 go into this 15? We'll skip count. 5, 10, 15. That's 3 times. 3 times the 5 is 15. Subtract, and we see that we have nothing left over. So the final answer is 83. 5 goes into 415 83 times. And if you want to be really thorough and check your work, you can say 83 times 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Carry the 1. 8 times 5 is 40, plus the 1 is 41. And this is the same as the number we started with. So that means that 83 is our correct quotient.